Imagine you are standing at the edge of a harbour at dawn. The water is still. 4 wooden posts rise from the surface, weathered and steady, marking the boundary where boats can safely moor. They do not move. They do not announce themselves. They simply stand, and because they stand, a vessel can rest there without drifting into open water or running aground. The Buddha spoke of 4 foundations, not philosophies, not beliefs, 4 places where attention can anchor, where awareness can return again and again, the way a boat returns to its mooring when the wind picks up or the current pulls. These are not destinations, they are reference points. Places you can touch with your attention when the mind begins to scatter or when the heart feels lost in its own weather. Right now, you are breathing. You did not decide to breathe just now. The body is doing this on its own. Air moves in, air moves out. There is a rhythm here that has been present since you were born, and it will continue until the final breath. This is the first foundation, the body. Not the body as you imagine it or wish it to be. The body as it is, breathing, sitting, lying down, standing. The body in its simple acts. You can feel the weight of your body right now. Perhaps you are lying down. There is contact between your body and the surface beneath you, your shoulders, your back, your legs. The body is always making contact with something. It is always in relationship with gravity, with texture, with temperature. This is not abstract. This is immediate. The body does not require interpretation. It simply is. When you bring attention to the body, you are not trying to fix it or improve it. You are meeting it. The way you might meet an old friend who does not need anything from you except your presence. The breath moves. The heart beats. Sensations arise. Some pleasant, some unpleasant, some neutral. And you can notice this without needing it to be different. This is the first post in the harbour. The body, breathing, present. Now notice that along with the body there are feelings, not emotions, though emotions will come. Feelings here mean something simpler, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Every experience that arises carries one of these 3 tones. The warmth of a blanket, pleasant, the ache in your shoulder, unpleasant. The sound of distant traffic, probably neutral. These feelings arise on their own. You do not create them. They come with experience the way wetness comes with water. And the mind, when it is not aware, reacts to these feelings automatically. It reaches toward the pleasant. It pushes away the unpleasant. It ignores the neutral. This reaching and pushing happens so quickly you might not even notice it. But it is happening all day, every day. The second foundation is simply this, noticing the feeling tone, not judging it, not acting on it immediately, just recognizing. Ah, this is pleasant. Ah, this is unpleasant. Ah, this is neither. When you anchor attention here, something shifts. The automatic reaction slows down. There is a gap, a small space between the feeling and the response. And in that space, you are free. Not free from the feeling, free in relation to it. The harbour posts again, 2 now, body and feeling, both steady, both available. The third foundation is the mind itself. Not the content of thought, but the quality of the mind in this moment. Is the mind calm or agitated? Is it concentrated or scattered? Is there anger present? Is there ease? You are not asking why. You are not trying to change it. You are simply noticing the weather of the mind. The mind has moods, the way the sky has weather, sometimes clear, sometimes clouded, sometimes stormy. And just as you would not blame the sky for raining, you do not blame the mind for its states. You observe. The mind is restless right now. The mind is dull right now. The mind is clear right now. This is not self-criticism. This is honesty. And honesty is kind. The fourth foundation is the contents of experience themselves, the patterns, the way things arise and pass. You begin to see that everything you experience comes and goes. Thoughts, sensations, emotions, even the sense of self. Nothing stays. Everything is in motion, even when it feels solid. You notice craving when it arises. You notice aversion. You notice the stories the mind tells to make sense of things. And you see that these too are just movements in awareness. They are not permanent. They are not you. 4 posts: body, feeling, mind, phenomena. Each one a place to return, each one a foundation that does not drift. You do not need to master these. You do not need to perfect anything. You simply begin to visit them, one at a time, breath by breath. You sit down with your tea and realize you've been thinking about a conversation from yesterday for the last 10 minutes. You didn't decide to think about it, it simply appeared, and your attention followed. A bird lands on a branch without asking permission from the tree. It stays for a moment, then lifts off and finds another perch, then another. Throughout the day, the bird moves from place to place, and the tree simply stands, witnessing each arrival and departure. Your attention moves this way too. It lands on a sound outside the window, then on the temperature of the room, then on a memory, then on a plan for later. Most of the time, you don't notice the movement itself. You only notice where you've already landed. The Buddha observed this carefully. He said that whatever a person frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. Not as a judgment, just as a fact about how attention works. Where the bird lands most often, that branch grows familiar. The path to it becomes clear. But first, you have to see that the bird is moving at all. This is where the 4 foundations of mindfulness begin. Not with concentration or discipline. Not with trying to hold your attention in one place, just with noticing. Where is your awareness right now? And now, and now? The first foundation is the body, the breath moving in and out, the weight of your hands, the pressure where you're sitting. These sensations are always here, but your attention is rarely with them. It has landed somewhere else. On a thought about dinner, on a worry about tomorrow, on a half-formed image of someone's face. The second foundation is feeling tone. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neither. This is subtler. A sound arises and with it a faint sense of liking or not liking. You don't choose this response, it simply comes, but your attention often misses it entirely, already moving toward the next thing. The third foundation is the mind itself, the quality of this moment's awareness. Is it calm or restless, spacious or tight, clear or foggy? You can feel this if you pause. But pausing means noticing that your attention has been somewhere else, and gently recognizing where it is now. The fourth foundation is the patterns that shape experience. The way clinging arises, the way aversion pulls you away. The way certain thoughts return again and again like a bird to the same branch. None of this requires force. You're not trying to control where the bird lands. You're just beginning to see that it moves, that it has been moving all along. Right now, your attention might be on these words, or it might have drifted to a sensation in your shoulder, or to the sound of your own breathing, or to a thought about whether you're doing this right. The content doesn't matter. What matters is the simple recognition. Attention has moved. When you notice this 3 times today, you're not completing a task, you're not checking a box, you're just seeing what has always been true. Your attention moves, it lands, it lifts off, it lands again. The first time might be in the middle of a conversation. You realize you've been planning your next sentence instead of listening. You didn't choose to stop listening. Your attention simply moved, the way a bird moves when something catches its interest. The second time might be while you're washing your hands. You notice that you've been thinking about an email you need to send. Your hands have been moving through the motions, but your awareness was elsewhere. Not wrong, just elsewhere. The third time might be right before sleep. You're lying down and you notice your mind circling the same thought it circled an hour ago. The same branch. The bird has returned. Each time you notice, something shifts, not dramatically. You're not suddenly enlightened, but you've seen the movement. You've seen that awareness can be here or there, that it goes where it goes, often without your choosing. And in that seeing, a question begins to form. Not a question you need to answer right now, just a quiet wondering. If attention moves on its own, what happens when you begin to observe the movement? What happens when you see the bird in flight, not just after it has landed? The 4 foundations are not 4 separate practices. They are 4 ways of noticing the same thing. That experience is happening, that awareness is touching experience, that you can feel this contact directly, right now, without needing it to be different. Where is your attention as you hear these words? It has landed somewhere, it will lift off soon. And when it does, you might notice. You can live an entire day without noticing you have feet. You can walk from room to room, stand in line, sit at a desk, and never once feel the pressure of the ground beneath you. The mind is somewhere else, planning, remembering, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet. The body becomes a vehicle you forget you're driving. This forgetting is not a failure. It's just what happens when attention floats untethered. The mind prefers stories to sensations. It prefers problems to solve over the simple fact of standing. And so the body fades into the background, unnoticed, until something goes wrong. Until your back aches, or your shoulders tighten, or your stomach clenches with anxiety. Then suddenly the body is loud. Then you remember you've been carrying it all along. The Buddha taught 4 foundations of mindfulness, and the body is the first. Not because it is the most important, but because it is always here, always now. A tree must know its roots before it notices its leaves. Without the roots, the leaves are just ideas, floating images with no ground beneath them. The body is the root. Breath, posture, sensation. The simplest, most immediate fact of being alive. You don't need to understand the body. You don't need to fix it or improve it. You just need to feel it. Not as a concept, not as something you think about, but as a living presence. The weight of your hands, the rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of air entering your nostrils. These are not metaphors. They are direct experience unfolding in real time. When you feel your feet on the ground, something shifts, not dramatically, not with fanfare, just a quiet return. The mind has been spinning in its own weather, and now there is ground beneath it. Solid, steady, not going anywhere. Try it now, if you're willing. Feel your feet, not the idea of your feet, but the actual sensation. Pressure against the floor or the earth, maybe warmth, maybe coolness. Maybe a slight tingling or numbness if you've been sitting a long time. Don't judge what you find. Just notice. One full breath while feeling your feet. Let the breath move through you while your attention stays with the soles of your feet, the edges, the heels. The breath doesn't need your help. It's already breathing you. Your only task is to feel your feet while it happens. A second breath. The mind might wander. It might start planning or remembering. That's fine. When you notice it has drifted, feel your feet again. The ground hasn't gone anywhere. It's been holding you this whole time. A third breath. By now, something has settled. Maybe just a little. Maybe more than you expected. The body is no longer a background hum. It's here, present. A field of sensation that doesn't need your thoughts to exist. This is the first foundation, not a philosophy, not a belief system. Just the body, known directly. When the body is felt, the mind has a place to land. Without that place, awareness floats, unanchored, pulled by every passing thought. With it, there is ground. A tree with deep roots can weather storms. It bends but does not break. Its leaves may tremble in the wind, but the roots hold steady, drawing nourishment from the earth. Your thoughts are like leaves. They move, they change color, they fall away. But the body is the root system, quiet and constant, always in contact with what is real. You don't need to live in your head. The head is just one part of the body, and the body is here, now, feeling the texture of cloth against skin, the weight of your arms, the gentle expansion of your ribs. These sensations are not distractions from your life. They are your life, happening in the only moment that ever actually arrives. When you forget the body, you forget the present. When you return to the body, the present returns to you. Not as an idea, but as a felt reality. The ground beneath your feet, the air moving in and out, the simple, undeniable fact of being here. This is where mindfulness begins, not with grand insights or transcendent experiences, just with feeling your feet for 3 breaths, just with noticing that the body has been here all along, patient, waiting for you to come home. You sit down to practice and immediately the breath becomes unnatural. You notice it, and now you're breathing it. The rhythm that moved quietly on its own becomes something you're managing. You try to breathe better, slower, deeper, more evenly. You've turned observation into a project. This happens because we confuse watching with doing. We think mindfulness means improving what we see. But the instruction is simpler than that. When breathing in, know you are breathing in. When breathing out, know you are breathing out. Not breathe in well, not breathe out perfectly, just know. The ocean doesn't ask waves to improve their rhythm. The waves rise and fall, some shallow, some deep, some quick, some slow. If you stand at the shore, you don't reach out to smooth them or slow them down, you watch. The watching doesn't change the water, it just sees what's already happening. Your breath is like this. It has its own rhythm, shaped by your body's needs in this moment. Sometimes short, sometimes long, sometimes smooth, sometimes catching slightly at the top. This rhythm isn't wrong, it's just what's here. But when you sit down to be mindful of breathing, something shifts. You become the one breathing instead of the one noticing breath. You take over. The breath that was moving on its own now waits for your instruction. Should it be deeper? Should it slow down? You've stepped in as manager, and the breath has become your employee. This is where the practice gets confused. You think you're being mindful, but you're actually being controlling. Mindfulness isn't control, it's recognition. It's the simple knowing that breath is moving right now. In this moment, air is entering. In this moment, air is leaving. That's all. When you watch waves, you don't become the ocean. You remain the watcher. The waves keep their own time. They don't wait for permission. They don't check if you approve. They just move, and you just see. This same relationship is possible with breath. Sit now, if you can, or later when you have 5 minutes. You don't need anything special, just a place where you can be still. Let your body settle. Don't arrange yourself into perfect posture. Just sit in a way that feels stable enough. Now find the breath. Not by doing anything to it. Just notice where you feel it most clearly. Maybe at the nostrils, maybe in the chest, maybe in the belly. Wherever is most obvious, let your attention rest there. You're going to count 10 breaths, just 10. The in-breath is 1, the out-breath is 2, the next in-breath is 3. Count to 10, then start again. But here's what makes this different from what you might have done before. You're not controlling the breath to make it countable. You're counting whatever breath appears. If the in-breath is short, you count a short breath. If the out-breath is long, you count a long breath. If the breath pauses between movements, you wait with the pause. You're not conducting, you're witnessing. This is harder than it sounds, because the urge to take over is strong. You'll notice yourself starting to deepen the breath to make it more countable. You'll catch yourself smoothing it out, evening it up. When this happens, you haven't failed. You've just discovered the difference between breathing and watching breath. That's the difference this practice reveals. Breathing is automatic. Watching breath is conscious. But watching doesn't mean interfering. The waves keep rolling whether you're there or not. Your attention doesn't make them move. It just knows they're moving. When you count, you might lose track. You might forget if you're on breath 5 or breath 6. That's fine. Start over at 1. The point isn't to reach 10. The point is to stay with each breath as it actually is, not as you think it should be. You might notice the breath changing on its own as you watch. It might slow down. It might deepen. Let it. These changes aren't you controlling. They're the body settling because you've stopped interfering. Like when you finally stop adjusting the pillow and your head finds its own comfortable weight. Some breaths will feel satisfying, some won't. Some will feel complete. Some will feel like they ended too soon. You're not trying to get good breaths. You're knowing whatever breath is here. The shallow breath, the deep breath, the uneven breath. Each one counted, each one seen. This is the foundation. Not breathing well, not breathing perfectly. Just knowing breath is breathing. When you can feel the difference between doing the breath and knowing the breath, something shifts. You've found the gap between experience and the one who experiences. That gap is where mindfulness lives. There is a knock on the door. Before you stand, before you even move, the mind is already deciding. Friend or stranger, good news or trouble. The body has not yet felt the floor beneath your feet, but the story is already written. This is what happens with sensation. The knee tightens, the back aches, the stomach clenches. But before the sensation is fully felt, the mind names it problem. It wraps the raw feeling in a layer of resistance, and what you meet is not the sensation itself, but your own aversion to it. Pain is one thing. Suffering is what the mind adds to pain. The Buddha spoke of 4 foundations of mindfulness. The first is the body. Not the body as we think about it, but the body as it is felt from the inside. Breath moving, weight settling, temperature shifting, and yes, discomfort arising, but we rarely meet discomfort directly. We meet our interpretation of it first. The sensation begins as a tightness in the shoulder, but by the time we notice, it has already become this again, or it is getting worse, or I cannot handle this. The knock on the door is still just a knock, but we have already opened it in our minds and decided what stands on the other side. Aversion does this. It moves faster than awareness. It is an old survival pattern designed to protect, and it does not wait for the full picture. It hears the knock and tenses. It feels the ache and pulls away. And in that pulling away, the sensation changes. It is no longer just a sensation. It is a problem that must be solved, endured, or escaped. This is where suffering begins. Not in the sensation itself, but in the space between the sensation and the story we tell about it. That space is so narrow we do not see it. The knock and the interpretation arrive as one thing. The ache and the resistance feel like the same moment. But they are not. When discomfort arises, there is a brief instant before the mind names what it means. In that instant, the sensation is just sensation. Pressure, heat, tightness, pulsing. It has texture and location, but it does not yet have a verdict. It is not good or bad. It is not a sign of something worse coming. It is just what is happening in this part of the body right now. The practice is to meet that instant, to name the raw sensation before naming what it means. Not this pain is unbearable, just tightness. Not my back is ruined, just heat. Not here we go again, just pressure, low and dull, in the left hip. This is not pretending the discomfort is not difficult. It is not reframing or thinking positively. It is simply seeing what is actually there before the mind adds its commentary. The knock on the door is still a knock. You do not have to call it anything else. You do not have to open it yet. Sit quietly. Let the body settle. Wait until a discomfort makes itself known. It does not need to be sharp. A dull ache will do. A stiffness, a pulling. When it arises, do not move away. Do not adjust. Just feel it. And then, very simply, name the sensation itself. Throbbing, burning, tingling, tight, cold, heavy. Not what it means, not what it will become. Just the quality of the feeling as it is. You may notice that the sensation is smaller than you thought, more specific. It is not your whole back. It is a band of tightness along the right shoulder blade. It is not constant. It pulses, fades slightly, returns. It is not as solid as the word pain suggests. And you may notice something else. The sensation itself is bearable. What made it unbearable was the layer you placed over it, the thought that it should not be there, the fear that it will not go away, the memory of the last time it happened. These are not the sensation, these are the mind's response to the sensation. When you name the raw feeling, you create a gap, a small space between what is happening and what you think about what is happening. In that gap, there is room, not to fix anything, not to make it go away, just to see it clearly. The knock is just a knock. You do not know who is there. You do not need to know yet. You can simply hear it, wood against wood, a sound in the silence, nothing more, nothing less. This is the beginning of the first foundation, the body, known as it is, not as we fear it to be, not as we wish it were. Just as it is, sensation by sensation in this moment. The gap becomes visible when you can feel the difference. When the tightness is just tightness, and the story about the tightness is something else entirely. When you can sit with the sensation and watch the mind try to make it mean something. When the knock remains a knock, even as the mind rushes to answer. You reach for your phone in the morning and see a message. Before you've read the full sentence, something shifts in the body, a tightness, a small lift. The mind hasn't formed a thought yet, but the body already knows whether it likes what it sees. This is feeling tone. It arrives before preference, before story, before the decision to move toward or away. It is the first taste of something before deciding if we want more. The Buddha pointed to this layer of experience with great care. He said that between the moment of contact, eye meeting form, ear meeting sound, mind meeting thought, and the arising of craving, there is a middle ground, a sensation, pleasant, unpleasant, or neither. We almost never see it. We skip straight from the thing itself to wanting it closer or pushing it away. A friend cancels plans. The news lands. Somewhere beneath the interpretation, beneath the story about whether they care or whether you matter, there is a bare feeling. Unpleasant. The mind doesn't pause there. It moves instantly into reaction. Hurt, relief, annoyance, freedom. The feeling tone becomes invisible, buried under everything that follows. This invisibility is not a small matter. It is where craving takes root, not in the object itself. Not even in the thought about the object, but in this thin, almost transparent layer where pleasant pulls and unpleasant pushes. If we don't see it, we are carried by it. You can test this with something simple, a sip of water when you're thirsty. The liquid touches the tongue. There is a moment, brief and easy to miss, where the experience registers as pleasant. Just that. Not, I like this or I want more. Just pleasant. Then if you keep watching, you might notice the next movement, the small lean toward another sip. The thought forming, this is good. That lean, that thought, that's craving. But it doesn't come first. The feeling tone comes first. This is one of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The Buddha called it Vedana. Feeling tone. He placed it second in the sequence, after mindfulness of the body, because it is subtler. You have to be somewhat steady to catch it. But once you see it even once, the whole chain of reactivity becomes visible. We spend most of our lives in a kind of automatic negotiation with pleasant and unpleasant, moving toward warmth, away from cold, toward praise, away from criticism, toward comfort, away from discomfort. None of this is wrong. The body is designed this way. The problem is that we don't see it happening. We think we are choosing freely, but we are being pushed and pulled by feeling tones we never noticed. Someone speaks to you in a sharp tone. The sound enters the ear. Unpleasant. The body contracts slightly. The mind, without pausing, begins building a case. They shouldn't speak that way. They don't respect me. I need to defend myself. All of that happens so fast, it feels like one movement. But it isn't. There was a moment right at the beginning where the experience was just unpleasant, before the story, before the reaction. That moment is where the path diverges. If you can notice the feeling tone as it arises, you are no longer completely subject to it. You see it as a visitor, not a command. Pleasant doesn't have to mean get more of this. Unpleasant doesn't have to mean make this stop. Neutral doesn't have to mean find something more interesting. You can simply know this is pleasant, this is unpleasant, this is neutral. And in that knowing, there is a small gap, a breath of space before the next thing. The practice is not to eliminate feeling tone. You can't. It is wired into perception itself. The practice is to see it clearly, to catch the first taste before the decision is made. Try this once today, not all day, just once. When something feels pleasant, a warm shower, a good stretch, a message you've been waiting for, pause for half a second. Notice that it feels pleasant. Don't do anything with that noticing. Don't amplify it or push it away. Just let it register. This is pleasant. Then watch what happens next. Does the mind reach for more? Does it try to hold on? Does it start planning how to repeat this feeling? You're not trying to stop any of that. You're just watching the sequence unfold. This is how the foundation is built, one clear seeing at a time. The gap between contact and craving becomes visible, and in that gap there is freedom. Not the freedom to feel only pleasant things, the freedom to see feeling tone for what it is. A passing condition, not a directive. A flavor, not a command. You feel something tighten in your chest, and the word arrives almost instantly. Anxiety, or anger, or sadness. The label comes so fast, it seems like the thing itself. But the word is not what you're feeling. The word is what you're thinking about what you're feeling. Before the name, there was something else, a pressure, a heat, a pulling inward or a spreading outward. The body knew first. The body is still knowing, even now, beneath the layer of language you placed over it. This is where we miss the truth of emotions. We leap to the story. We say, I am anxious, and suddenly there's a whole narrative about why, about what it means, about what might happen next. The feeling becomes a problem to solve, or a state to escape. But the actual sensation in your body, the one that started all of this, gets buried under the rush to name and fix. Weather moves through a valley without asking permission. It doesn't announce itself with a sign. Clouds gather, wind shifts, rain begins. The valley doesn't resist the weather or cling to it. It simply receives what comes and lets it pass. Your body is like this valley. Emotions arrive as physical events, shifts in temperature, changes in pressure, waves of tension or release. They move through if you let them. But when you name them too quickly, you build a wall. You turn weather into something solid, something that belongs to you, something you must manage. The teaching says emotions are like clouds. They have shape, weight, movement. You can feel their presence. But if you reach for them, your hand passes through. There's nothing solid to grasp. This doesn't mean emotions aren't real. It means they're real in a different way than we usually think. They're events, not objects, processes, not possessions. When you feel something rising before the word comes, there's a moment of pure sensation. Maybe your throat tightens, maybe your shoulders lift, maybe there's a flutter low in your belly or a heaviness behind your eyes. This is the emotion as it actually is, not the story, not the memory of the last time you felt this way, just the raw fact of the body responding to this moment. If you can find that sensation before you name it, something shifts. You're no longer dealing with anxiety or anger, words that carry years of associations and judgments. You're dealing with tightness, with heat, with a specific quality of pressure in a specific place. And these things you can feel. These things you can be with. This is the practice. When something stirs, pause. Don't reach for the label yet. Drop your attention into your body. Where is this happening? Is it in your chest, your throat, your stomach? Is it sharp or dull? Does it pulse or does it press? Does it have a temperature? Does it spread or does it gather? You're not trying to make it go away. You're not trying to understand it or fix it. You're just locating it. You're feeling it as a physical fact, the way you'd feel the sun on your skin or the floor beneath your feet. Sometimes the sensation is smaller than you thought. Sometimes it's bigger. Sometimes it moves. You might notice the tightness in your chest is also a tension in your jaw. You might feel heat in your face that you hadn't registered before. The body tells you things the mind skips over in its hurry to categorize and respond. Weather in a ballet doesn't stay the same. Clouds shift, wind dies down or picks up. What felt heavy a moment ago might thin and lighten. What felt hot might cool. When you stay with the sensation instead of the story, you feel this movement. The emotion isn't one solid thing. It's a process unfolding. And processes change. This is what we miss when we name too quickly. We freeze something fluid. We make a snapshot out of something that's already shifting. And then we relate to the snapshot, the idea of anger, the concept of fear, instead of the living, breathing, changing reality in our body. You don't have to be good at this. You don't have to catch every emotion before the label arrives. But even once in a while, even with one feeling today, you can try. Feel it first. Let the name come second if it needs to come at all. Let the body speak before the mind translates. What you'll find is that emotions felt this way are less frightening. They're weather, they have force, yes, they have presence, but they're not you, and they're not permanent. They're clouds moving through the belly of your body, and the belly remains. We spend so much time trying to calm the mind. We watch the breath, we count, we label thoughts, and still the mind spins. What we forget is that the mind does not float free. It lives in a body, and the body knows how to settle. The body has been sitting, standing, walking for years. It has found balance on uneven ground. It has learned to rest when tired. But we do not often ask it to be still without purpose. We sit to eat, to work, to wait for something else. Rarely do we sit just to sit. There is a stone at the bottom of a stream. Water rushes over it, fast and cold. The stone does not resist the water. It does not try to calm the current. It simply rests where it is, and the water moves around it. The stone's stillness is not effort. It is weight meeting ground. When you sit without moving, the body begins to show you what it carries. At first, there is restlessness. The knee wants to shift. The shoulder wants to roll. The hand wants to scratch an itch that was not there a moment ago. These are not problems. They are the body's way of speaking. It has been moving all day to avoid discomfort, and now you are asking it to stay. The teaching from Zen is simple. Sit like a mountain. Let thoughts be clouds passing by. But this is not instruction to force stillness. A mountain does not hold itself rigid. It rests under its own weight. Clouds do not need permission to move. They pass because that is what clouds do. If you sit for 10 minutes without adjusting, something begins to shift. The first few minutes are loud. The body protests. The mind offers reasons to stop. But if you stay, the noise begins to thin. Not because you have conquered anything, because the body, given time, remembers how to settle. This is one of the four foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the body, not the idea of the body, not the body as you wish it were. The body as it is right now, with all its small discomforts and quiet signals. The breath moving in the belly, the weight pressing into the chair or the floor, the temperature of the air on the skin. We think mindfulness happens in the head. We think it is about watching thoughts or finding insight. But the body is where mindfulness begins. The body does not argue, it does not interpret, it simply feels. And when you bring attention to the body, the mind has less room to spin. The stone at the bottom of the stream does not need the water to stop. It does not wait for a calm day. It rests in the current, and the current moves over it, and both exist at once. You can sit the same way. Thoughts will come, sensations will rise, but underneath there can be stillness. Equanimity is not the absence of movement. It is the capacity to remain steady while movement happens. The body teaches this better than any concept. When you sit without moving, the body learns that discomfort does not require action. The itch fades, the restlessness softens, not because you have suppressed it, but because you have stopped feeding it with adjustment. This is not about endurance. It is not about proving you can sit through pain. If there is sharp pain, you move. But most of what arises is not sharp. It is dull. It is vague. It is the body testing whether you will listen or react. When you sit like a mountain, you are not trying to become stone. You are noticing what the body does when it stops. The breath deepens without effort. The shoulders drop. The jaw unclenches. These are not things you do. They are things the body does when you stop interrupting. Stillness is not something you achieve. It is something you notice. It is already there underneath the movement. The stream rushes, but the stone has always been still. You sit, and after some time you feel it, not as accomplishment, as quality, as the way things are when you stop trying to make them different. The body knows how to rest. It has always known. You are only learning to let it. You are thinking right now, not later, not in general. Right now, as these words arrive, something in you is already turning them into meaning, into opinion, into memory, and you do not see it happening. This is the core problem. Not that we think, but that thinking happens, and we believe we are doing it. We believe we are the thinker, standing behind the thoughts, choosing them, directing them. But if you look closely, thoughts appear. They arrive like weather. And most of the time, we are simply inside them, mistaking the view from inside a thought for the view of reality itself. A mirror reflects whatever passes before it. It does not hold the image. It does not become the image. When a bird flies by, the mirror shows the bird. When the bird is gone, the mirror is clear again. It does not argue with what appears. It does not cling to what has passed. The mind can be like this, but first you have to see that right now it is not. Right now, the mind is more like a mirror that has forgotten. It is a mirror. It believes it is the bird. It believes it is the reflection. It thinks the image is the truth. The Buddha offered a simple instruction. Know the mind as it is, not as you wish it were, not as it should be, as it is. If the mind is contracted, know that it is contracted. If it is expansive, know that. If it is scattered, lost in 10 directions at once, know that. If it is steady, resting on one thing, know that too. This is not self-improvement. This is seeing. And seeing begins with noticing that thinking is happening. You might be reading this and planning dinner, or remembering something someone said yesterday, or judging whether this is useful. That is thinking. And it is so constant, so familiar, that it becomes invisible. We live inside a stream of thought and call it awareness. But thought is not awareness. Thought is something awareness can notice. When you catch yourself thinking, something shifts. Not dramatically, not permanently, but for one moment there is a gap. You were inside the thought. Now you are seeing the thought. The mirror remembers it is a mirror. This does not require force. It requires attention. 3 times today, when you notice that thinking is happening, say silently to yourself, thinking. Just that. Thinking. Say it again. Thinking. And once more. Thinking. Not to stop the thought, not to push it away, but to mark it. To see it as an event. Something that appeared. Something that will pass. You do not have to wait for a quiet moment. You do not have to be meditating. You can be walking, washing dishes, waiting in line. The thought might be about work, about a conversation, about what you should have said or what might happen next. It does not matter what the thought is. What matters is that you see it as thought. Most of the time, we are lost in content. We believe the story. We think the worry is the problem, or the memory is the problem, or the plan is the problem. But the problem is not the content. The problem is that we do not see thinking as thinking. We see it as reality. We see it as self. When the mirror forgets it is a mirror, it suffers. It believes the images are permanent. It tries to hold on to the pleasant ones and push away the painful ones. But the images are not permanent. They arise and pass. The mirror does not need to do anything. It only needs to remain clear. The mind, when it knows itself as mind, does the same. It does not cling to thoughts of pleasure. It does not resist thoughts of pain. It sees them arise. It sees them pass. And in that seeing, there is space. This space is not emptiness in the sense of absence. It is emptiness in the sense of non-clinging. The thought can be there. The feeling can be there. But you are not inside it. You are aware of it. So today, 3 times, catch yourself. You will be thinking about something. It might be important. It might be trivial. It does not matter. When you notice, name it. Thinking, thinking, thinking. Let the word be soft. Let it be kind. You are not scolding the mind. You are waking it up. Each time you do this, you are training the mind to recognize itself, not as the content of thought, but as the space in which thought appears. The mirror does not become the bird. The mind does not become the thought. And when you see this even once, something begins to loosen. Thoughts are events. They are not truth. They are not you. They are occurrences in awareness, like sounds, like sensations. And when you know them as events, you are no longer trapped inside them. You wake up and already there is wanting. Coffee. Quiet. A few more minutes before the day begins, the wanting feels so small, so reasonable, that you do not notice it as wanting at all. You call it preference, you call it need. But underneath the names, something is reaching. This reaching does not stop. It moves from coffee to comfort, from comfort to control, from control to the next thing and the next. By evening, you are tired in a way that sleep does not fix. The exhaustion is not in your muscles. It is in the constant motion of desire, the endless work of trying to arrange the world so it finally feels right. Imagine carrying a bag through your day. At first it is light, you barely feel it, but you never set it down. You carry it from room to room, task to task, conversation to conversation. The weight does not change, but your shoulder begins to ache, then your back, then your whole body. The problem is not the bag. The problem is that you have been holding it for so long, you forgot you could let go. Craving works this way. It is not the objects themselves that wear you down. It is the holding, the constant grasping after what is pleasant and pushing away what is not. The Buddha called this tanha, thirst. Not the healthy thirst that asks for water when the body needs it, but the thirst that is never satisfied. The thirst that drinks and immediately asks for more. This thirst shapes every moment, but you do not see it. You see only the objects, the promotion you want, the pain you want to end, the person you want to text you back. You think the problem is out there, in the things themselves. So you work harder, you rearrange, you try to make the world comply. And when it does not, you feel the failure as yours. But the teaching is simple. Craving is the root. See it clearly, and it loosens. Not because you fight it, not because you shame yourself for wanting, but because seeing changes the relationship. When you notice the wanting itself, not just the wanted thing, something shifts. The bag is still there, but now you know you are holding it. And knowing this, you might set it down, just for a moment, just to feel what that is like. The practice is quieter than you think. You do not need to meditate for hours or renounce your life. You need only to notice one moment of wanting something and feel where it lives in your body. Right now, if you pause, you might find it. A tightness in the chest, a leaning forward in the mind, a small contraction around the thought of what comes next. This is not bad. This is not failure. This is just what craving feels like when you stop calling it something else. You might notice it when you reach for your phone. There is a moment before your hand moves when the wanting is clear. A little pull, a little itch, or when you are waiting for someone to finish talking so you can say what you want to say. The impatience is not about them. It is the craving to be heard, to be seen, to matter. Or late at night when you cannot sleep and you want so badly for your mind to quiet. The wanting itself is what keeps you awake. Each time you feel it, you are not trying to make it go away. You are just noticing. Oh, this is what wanting feels like. This tightness, this heat, this leaning. The 4 foundations of mindfulness teach you to know your body, your feelings, your mind, your patterns. Craving runs through all of them. It is not separate from your experience. It is woven into the fabric of every moment. And here is what happens when you see it clearly, without judgment, without trying to fix it. The craving does not vanish, but it stops being a command. It becomes just another experience arising and passing, like a sound, like a breath. You feel the pull, and you do not have to follow it. You feel the push, and you do not have to harden against it. The bag is still in your hand, but now you notice the ache in your shoulder. And noticing, you realize you have been carrying it all this time by choice. Not because you had to, not because the bag demanded it, but because you did not know there was another way. This is the shift. From craving as invisible force to craving as visible pattern. Once you see the pattern, it cannot command you the same way. You still want things, you still have preferences, but the desperate edge softens, the exhaustion eases. You set the bag down, even if just for a breath, and feel the lightness of your own hand. You reach for a cup of tea and pull your hand back before your fingers even touch the ceramic. The heat hasn't reached you yet, but the body has already decided. This is how aversion works. It moves faster than awareness. It protects, yes, but it also hides. The mind does this too. Something unpleasant arises, a tightness in the chest, a thought you don't want, the memory of something said, and before you can see it clearly, the hand is already pulling back. Not the physical hand. The attention itself. It flinches, it turns, it fills the space with something else, anything else, before the discomfort can land. This is not wrong. It is simply what the mind has learned to do. But in that speed, in that automatic recoil, we lose the chance to see what is actually there. We never find out what we are avoiding. We only know that we are avoiding. The movement becomes familiar. The object remains unknown. The teaching says that aversion is craving in reverse. Both are the mind refusing what is. Craving says, I need this to be here. Aversion says, I need this to be gone. The direction is different, but the refusal is the same. Both are a kind of pushing. Both assume that what is happening should not be happening. And in that assumption, there is tension, there is struggle. There is the quiet exhaustion of always managing experience, always adjusting the temperature of the moment. When you sit quietly and something unpleasant arises, notice what happens next. Maybe it's a dull ache in the knee. Maybe it's restlessness. Maybe it's the thought that you should be doing something else. Watch how quickly the mind reaches for the exit. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "I am now avoiding this." It just moves. It shifts focus. It starts planning. It remembers something. It judges the discomfort as bad, as something that shouldn't be there. And in that judgment, the aversion is already complete. But if you pause, if you catch the movement just as it begins, you can feel the urge itself. Not the discomfort, the urge to push the discomfort away. This is different. The discomfort is one thing, the urge is another. And the urge has a texture, it has a quality, it is not abstract. It is a tightening, a leaning back, a subtle bracing in the body and mind. It is the hand pulling away before the heat arrives. When you feel that urge, you don't have to follow it. You don't have to stop it either. You can simply let it be there. Let the urge exist without acting on it. This is not about enduring pain. It is not about forcing yourself to stay with something unbearable. It is about seeing that the urge to avoid is not the same as the thing you are avoiding. And in that seeing, there is space. The space is small at first, just a breath, just a moment where you notice the impulse without obeying it. In that moment, the discomfort is still there. But now you are also aware of the aversion. You are not lost in it. You are watching it. And when you watch it, it changes. Not because you are trying to change it, but because awareness itself is different from reaction. This is where the four foundations of mindfulness begin to clarify. You are not transcending the body or the feelings or the mind. You are turning toward them. You are letting them be seen. The unpleasant sensation in the body is just sensation. The unpleasant feeling tone is just unpleasant. It does not require a story. It does not require a solution. It only requires that you stop pulling your hand back before you even know what you are touching. Sometimes the aversion is so fast, you only catch it after it has already moved. You realize you have been thinking about something else for 5 minutes, and only then do you remember there was a discomfort you were avoiding. That is fine. The noticing itself is the practice. You don't have to catch it early. You just have to catch it. And when you do, you can feel it. Not the original discomfort, but the shape of the avoidance. The way the mind leans away. The way the breath tightens. The way the body braces. And then, if you are willing, you can let the bracing soften. Not by force, not by trying to relax, but by seeing that the bracing is optional. The discomfort may not be optional, but the refusal of it is. The aversion is a movement, not a necessity. It is something the mind does, not something the mind must do. When you see this clearly, even once, the whole structure loosens. You begin to notice aversion everywhere, not just in meditation, in conversations, in traffic, in the way you turn away from certain thoughts, certain people, certain truths about your own life. The hand is always pulling back, and now you can see it pulling back. You can feel the heat that was never close enough to burn. There is a moment in the morning when you reach for your phone. Your hand moves before you've decided. The screen lights up and your thumb is already scrolling. You might think this is you choosing, but watch more closely. Where is the one who chose? A river flows through a landscape without anyone steering it. The water moves around stones, gathers speed on slopes, pools in low places. If you stood on the bank and asked who is directing this river, the question would sound strange. The river simply flows according to conditions. The shape of the land, the force of gravity, the volume of water. No captain is needed, No self sits at the center making it all happen. Your habits move the same way. They arise from conditions. The phone is within reach. The screen glows with possibility. Your nervous system learned long ago that scrolling brings a small relief from stillness. These conditions meet and the hand moves. But we tell ourselves a different story. We say, I am someone who checks my phone too much. I am anxious. I am undisciplined. We take the flowing and turn it into an identity. The Buddha pointed to something quieter. There is no doer, only doing. No thinker, only thinking. This is not philosophy. It is something you can see directly if you look at experience without adding the story of me. Watch yourself make coffee in the morning. The body stands. The feet carry you to the kitchen. The hand reaches for the cup. Each movement arises. But where is the one who is doing it? You might say, I am doing it. But look closer. Is there an I standing apart from the reaching, the walking, the pouring? Or is there just reaching, walking, pouring, and then a thought that comes after, claiming ownership? The 4 foundations of mindfulness ask you to observe the body, feelings, mind, and mental objects. Not to improve them, not to fix them, just to see them as they are. And what you see, if you look without rushing, is that everything arises and passes according to conditions. The breath comes in because the lungs emptied. The thought appears because something triggered it. The habit unfolds because the circumstances lined up. This is not about denying that you exist. You are here, reading these words, breathing, aware. But the question is, what are you? Are you the fixed entity you imagine, the one who owns these habits and must carry them forever? Or are you more like the river, a process unfolding, shaped by conditions that are always changing? When you believe your habits are who you are, you carry them differently. They become heavy. You think, this is my anxiety, my impatience, my need for control. The habit and the self fuse together. And then change feels impossible because changing the habit would mean changing who you are at the core. The identity hardens around the pattern. But the river does not identify with its current shape. When the rains come, it swells. When the season dries, it narrows. It is always flowing, always responding, never insisting it must remain the same. The water does not look back at yesterday's path and say, that is who I am. You can watch one habitual action today, not to stop it, not to judge it, just to see it. Pick something small and repeat it. The way you sigh when you sit down, the way you refresh your email, the way you hold tension in your jaw. Watch it happen. And as it happens, ask quietly, who is doing this? Do not answer with words. Let the question sit in awareness. Watch the action arise. Watch it unfold. See if you can find the one who is doing it, separate from the doing itself. You will likely find thoughts that say, I am. Thoughts that narrate and claim. But thoughts are also just arising. They are not proof of a doer. They are part of the doing. The habit will happen. That is fine. You are not trying to stop the river. You are learning to see that the river flows without a captain. And in that seeing, something loosens. The habit is no longer welded to your identity. It is just a pattern, arising from conditions, and conditions change. This is the beginning of freedom, not the freedom to become someone better, the freedom to see that there is no fixed someone to begin with, just this, just now, just the flow. You sit down to practice and the mind wanders within seconds. Before the third breath, you are somewhere else entirely. A conversation from yesterday, a task for tomorrow, the texture of sound from the next room. And then you notice. You have drifted. And in that noticing, something tightens. A small voice arrives, quiet but insistent. You have failed again. This is where most of us live. We think the wandering is the problem. We think the goal is to stay with the breath without interruption, and each time we drift, we mark it as evidence that we cannot do this, that we are not built for stillness, that something in us is broken or resistant or too restless for this kind of work. But the wandering is not the failure. The wandering is just what minds do. They move, they reach, they follow the faintest scent of thought and disappear into it. This is not a flaw in your practice, it is the condition in which practice occurs. There is a teaching that names this plainly. 10,000 times the mind wanders, 10,000 times begin again. Not 9,999 times and then finally you get it right. 10,000. As many times as it takes, as many times as it happens. The practice is not in the staying, the practice is in the return. Think of a bell that rings each time we remember to listen. Not a bell we strike ourselves, not something we control or schedule, but one that sounds on its own, moved by wind or the shift of air in a room. We do not know when it will ring, we only know that when it does, we hear it. That moment of hearing, that is the bell. And in practice, the moment you notice you have wandered, that is the bell. It rings, you hear it, you come back. The bell does not scold you for not listening sooner. It does not ask why you were distracted or how long you were gone. It simply rings, and you hear it. And that hearing is complete in itself. So when you sit, and the breath is there, and then it is not, and then you notice it is not, that noticing is not a failure. It is the sound of the bell. It is the practice arriving in real time. You do not return because you have done something wrong. You return because returning is what the practice is made of. You can try this now or later whenever the conditions allow. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit somewhere you will not be interrupted. Close your eyes or lower your gaze. Bring attention to the breath, not controlling it, not deepening it, just feeling it as it is. The coolness at the nostrils, the rise of the chest, the small pause between breaths. And then wait. The mind will wander. It might wander immediately. It might stay for a handful of breaths and then slip away. It does not matter. When you notice you are no longer with the breath, you do not analyze what happened. You do not ask why. You simply return. One breath, then another. And when the mind wanders again, you return again. This is not about how many times you wander. It is not about reducing the number or lengthening the stretches of attention. It is about what happens in the return itself. That small gesture, that quiet pivot back, that is where the bell rings. Each return is a beginning, not a correction, not a recovery, a beginning. As fresh as the first breath you took when you sat down, the mind wanders. The bell rings, you begin again. No residue, no accumulation of failure, just this breath, just this return. You might return 5 times in 5 minutes. You might return 50. Both are complete, both are practice. The number does not measure anything. The wandering does not mean you are doing it wrong. The wandering is the ground. The return is the step. And over time, something shifts. Not because you get better at staying, not because the mind wanders less, but because you stop seeing the return as evidence of failure. You stop bracing against the drift. The bell rings, and you hear it, and you come back, and there is no story attached. Just the sound, just the breath, just the beginning again. When that happens, when the return feels as natural as the breath itself, when you no longer flinch at the wandering or tighten at the noticing, then you know something has landed. The practice is not about arriving somewhere the mind does not wander. The practice is the return. 10,000 times, as many times as the bell rings, as many times as you hear it. We fill the space between thoughts before we notice it was there. A song while we dress, a podcast while we walk, voices while we eat. We treat silence like something broken that needs fixing. The mind prefers its own noise to the quiet that might show what we've been avoiding. There is a pond near where I used to live. In the morning, before anyone came, the surface would settle into perfect stillness. You could see straight to the bottom, stones, silt, the way light moved through water. But if you stepped too close or tossed something in, the whole surface would cloud. Not because the water changed, because you stirred what was already there. The mind works this way. We assume the murkiness is the problem, so we add more. Another thought to clarify the last one, another distraction to cover the discomfort. We keep stirring. The 4 foundations of mindfulness begin with a different approach. They ask us to stop adding and start noticing. Body, feeling tone, mind states, the content of experience. Not as concepts to master, but as direct observations. What is here when we are not filling the space? Most of us have never tried. We sit down and immediately the mind reaches for something to do, a mantra, a visualization, a technique. This is not wrong, but it is not stillness. Stillness does not arrive because we perform it correctly. It arrives when we stop performing. The instruction is almost too simple. Sit in silence for 15 minutes. No method, no object of focus, no goal to reach. Just sitting, just the room, just what is. At first this feels impossible. The mind will offer you 1,000 reasons to do something else. It will say you are wasting time. It will say this is not real practice. It will manufacture an itch, a memory, a plan. The pond stirs itself when you stop stirring it, because that is what ponds do when sediment has been disturbed for years. You do not fight this, you do not try to force the water clear. You sit at the edge and wait. What you are waiting for is not peace, not bliss, not even calm. You are waiting for the stirring to slow on its own. And it will, not because you controlled it, because you stopped adding to it. The body will speak first. A tightness in the shoulders, the weight of your hands, the temperature of the air against your skin. These are not distractions. They are the first layer of what silence reveals. The body has been here all along, but you were too loud to notice. Then the feeling tones. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. They flicker through faster than you expect. A sound outside becomes irritation. The memory of irritation becomes a story. The story becomes a mood. All of this in seconds. The pond shows you what you stir with, even when you think you are still. You do not need to fix any of this. You are not sitting in silence to become a better person. You are sitting to see what is already happening. The mind moves, feelings shift, sensations arise and fade. This is not a problem to solve. This is the nature showing itself when you stop covering it with noise. Somewhere in the middle of the 15 minutes, if you do not fill the gap, something shifts. The silence stops feeling like absence. It starts feeling like space. Not empty, spacious. The difference is subtle but unmistakable. Emptiness wants to be filled. Space allows what is. The pond clears because you let it. The water was never the problem. The stirring was. And the stirring was never the problem either. It was just what happens when we forget we can stop. Sit in a room with no music, no guidance, no timer if the sound will pull you out. Just 15 minutes of your own presence. Let the mind do what it does. Let the body do what it does. Do not manage the experience. Do not improve it. Just let the surface settle. You will know when the silence has become spacious because you will stop waiting for it to end. The discomfort will still be there. The thoughts will still come, but they will move through space instead of crashing into walls. You will notice you are breathing without deciding to notice. You will hear the room without listening for anything. This is the ground of the 4 foundations, not a technique you add on top of life. A willingness to stop adding and see what remains. The water clears when you stop stirring it. The mind shows its nature when you stop demanding it be different. There is daylight above the clouds. Even when the sky is grey and low, the sun has not disappeared. It continues, steady and unbothered, while weather moves through. We forget this when we stand under thick cover. We think the light has gone. But it was only ever hidden, not absent. Mindfulness feels the same way sometimes. We think of it as something we must create. We sit down with intention. We set a timer. We try to become mindful, as if awareness were a switch we need to find in the dark. And when we cannot locate it quickly, we assume we have failed. We assume mindfulness is somewhere else, waiting for us to arrive. But awareness is not produced by effort. It is already here. It does not need to be built or earned. It is the condition in which all experience occurs. Before you decided to pay attention, you were already perceiving. Before you named the breath was already moving. Awareness was there, quiet and constant, like daylight that does not announce itself. The 4 foundations of mindfulness point to this. They are not 4 techniques to master. They are 4 places where awareness is already resting: the body, feeling tones, the quality of mind, and the patterns of experience. These are not destinations. They are simply where you have always been. When you notice the weight of your hands, awareness is already present. When you feel warmth or coolness on your skin, awareness is already there. It does not arrive because you summoned it. It was never absent. You only turned toward what was already happening. This is the teaching the Mahayana tradition offers with clarity. Mindfulness is not a state to achieve, but the natural clarity of an unobstructed mind. The mind does not need to become clear. It is clear by nature. What obstructs it are the layers we add, the planning, the judging, the stories we tell about what should be happening instead of what is. You can test this right now. Without changing anything, notice that you are aware of these words. You did not have to construct that awareness. It was already functioning. You are reading, and somewhere beneath the reading, there is the simple fact of knowing. That knowing does not flicker in and out. It continues even when attention shifts. This is why mindfulness practice is not about creating something new. It is about recognizing what is already occurring. The breath has been breathing all along. Sensations have been arising and passing all along. Thoughts have been moving through like weather. Awareness has been here, holding it all without effort. Impermanence helps us see this more clearly. Each moment is already changing. The body you noticed a moment ago is not the same body now. Cells have shifted, temperature has adjusted, tension has softened or tightened. Nothing stays still long enough to be grasped. And yet awareness remains, watching the flow without needing to stop it. When we treat mindfulness as something to achieve, we try to freeze experience. We want to hold on to a particular quality of attention. We want to feel a certain way. But the moment we clench around it, we lose the natural ease that was already there. We turn awareness into a project, and projects require effort, maintenance, and eventually exhaustion. Daylight does not work hard to be light. It simply is. And when clouds pass, the light does not chase them or push them away. It continues, unchanged, while the weather does what weather does. You have already experienced this. There was a moment today or yesterday or last week when you were simply present without trying. Maybe you were washing your hands and felt the water. Maybe you glanced out a window and saw the shape of a tree. Maybe you paused between tasks and noticed the quiet. In that moment, you were not practicing mindfulness. You were simply aware. And that awareness did not need to be constructed. It was already there, like light that never left. The practice, then, is not to create awareness. It is to notice when it is already present. Just once today. Not as a task to complete, but as a recognition. Awareness is here now. It was here before you looked for it. It will be here when you stop looking. This does not mean you will always feel calm or clear. Clouds will still pass, thoughts will still rise, discomfort will still appear. But underneath all of that, awareness continues. It does not depend on conditions being present. It does not require silence or stillness. It is simply the space in which everything occurs. And when you see this, even briefly, the practice does not end. It does not need to. Each moment offers the same opportunity, not to achieve mindfulness, but to rest in what is already awake. We've walked through the 4 foundations together: body, feeling, mind, phenomena. 4 ways of looking at the same unfolding moment, 4 doors into what is already here. And now there is only this: the breath moving, the body present, the mind noticing what it notices. Nothing needs to be remembered perfectly. Nothing needs to be mastered. The foundations are not achievements. They are invitations to look clearly at what you have always been experiencing, but perhaps not seeing. You might sit down tomorrow and forget the words. You might lose track of which foundation you are practicing. That is fine. The body will still be breathing. Sensations will still arise. The mind will still be moving through its patterns. And you can simply notice. That is enough. What we have been calling mindfulness is not something you add to experience. It is a way of meeting experience without the usual layers of reaction, without immediately turning toward or away, without needing the moment to be other than it is. The breath comes in, you feel it. The breath goes out, you feel it. A sound arrives, you hear it. A thought forms, you know it. This is the practice. This simple, repeating return to what is actually happening. And in that return, something loosens, not dramatically, not all at once, but over time, the grip softens. The stories lose some of their weight. The urgency fades just slightly. You begin to see that thoughts are just thoughts. Feelings are just feelings. They come, they stay for a moment, they go. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become cold or distant. It means you stop being tossed around by every shift in the weather of the mind. You learn to stand steady while the wind blows through. The 4 foundations give you places to anchor. When the mind is scattered, you can return to the body. When the body feels numb, you can notice feeling tone. When feelings overwhelm, you can observe the mind itself. When the mind feels tangled, you can see the patterns, the phenomena, the way things arise and pass. Each foundation supports the others. They are not separate practices. They are angles of attention, ways of steadying the lens. And the steadying itself becomes a refuge, not a place you go to escape. A quality of awareness you can return to again and again in the middle of whatever is happening. You do not need to be calm to practice. You do not need to be wise or pure or free from difficulty. You only need to be willing to look, to notice, to return. The Buddha called this the direct path, not because it is fast, not because it bypasses anything, but because it goes straight to experience itself. It does not rely on belief or philosophy or someone else's authority. It relies on your own capacity to see clearly. And you do have that capacity. It is already present. It is the knowing that knows you are reading these words. The awareness that is aware of the breath, the body, the room around you. That awareness does not need to be created. It only needs to be recognized, and then trusted, and then returned to over and over until the return becomes as natural as breathing. So let the concepts fall away now. Let the structure dissolve. Let the 4 foundations become just this: the body here, the breath moving, the mind open. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the surface beneath you. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Notice the rhythm of your breathing, the quiet rise and fall. There is nothing else you need to do, nothing you need to figure out. Just this, just now. If you would like to continue sitting with these teachings, there are other explorations waiting. But there is no hurry. You can stay here as long as you like. You can return whenever you need to. The breath is always here. The body is always present. Awareness is always available. Rest in that. Let everything else be secondary. Breathe in. Breathe out. And know that you are breathing.